very welcome under our Europe Dome. We're going to talk about the EU Parliament and our expectations of the EU in general, actually. I'm going to do it in English. If there's something anyone doesn't understand, please let me know. We can easily translate things, that's no problem. A few important things, more technical. We are being filmed. If you don't want to be filmed, just let us know. We make sure you're not on the camera. That's no problem. Yeah, okay. And second of all, it's very important that if you talk into the microphone. It's not because it makes your voice louder. You can also hear with me, it doesn't make the voice louder. But it's better to hear on the video if people actually talk into the microphone. So that's two things. Let's start. I actually want to start with a very easy question that we can make a little round and everyone can give some input. So what do you guys think is the EU Parliament and what is its role, so to say? So would you like to start?
What it is?
What is the EU Parliament? What should it do? What is its role?
Those are three questions, I believe. Well, I think the EU Parliament are the people that we have chosen, all of the people in Europe, and what they do, they're supposed to take care of our mutual interest, I think. And what was the third question?
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, what they're supposed to do. So, well, I gave you two answers. So, and I hope that they will, they'll do a good job there for us, for the mutual interest. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can.
Okay.
Yeah, the microphone's not too close together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you want to?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So indeed, as you said, the Parliament represents the citizens of the European Union, and well, I think we should be clear on that it's not 100% like the representation of every citizens, because it is a small parliament, so still not enough members to represent everyone, but it is a good platform and a good way to start a democratic process in the European Union, and yeah.
I'd like to answer in a little bit idealistic way. So I see the European Parliament as a good platform for different countries to have a dialogue and to cooperate, and like the European Union is the place when we can have some kind of guidelines which we can follow together. So cooperation is needed in this world when they have really big global challenges. So maybe our system is not perfect, but I think that we are we all countries from the European Union, we are pioneers in many different areas. For example, I'm kind of happy that we have really great achievements in social area. Of course, there are a lot of things which have to be done further and so on, but like at this moment, I think that we are leading and kind of, creating something really nice. So yeah, a cheesy answer, but I kind of believe in that.
I think I can do it without the thing, because I'm used to talk against the wind. I'm from the island from here. So. And I have not so much to say about it because I'm not so. Yeah, I'm interested. Of course, I have to live with it, but there are a lot of things that I do not understand. What things are happening in Brussels. I'm a fisherman and used to be a fisherman. I'm stopped, but yeah, no, my English is not good enough to.
You can do it in Dutch if you want. Twee vertalen dan.
Ja?
Ja, zeker.
Oké, dan gaan we dat proberen. Maar zonder dat ding gaat wel, hè. Ik ben goed te verstaan zo.
Maar het is voor opnemen.
Oh, nou, dat dus doe ik wel een beetje zo dan.
Ja, dat denk ik.
Komt helemaal goed. Nou ja, ik probeer wel eens het te volgen wat er gebeurt in Brussel. Maar ik krijg er niks van mee soms. Helemaal niet. Er gebeuren dingen, die vind ik leuk. De andere dingen vind ik minder leuk. Maar die zijn er gebeurd. Maar ik kan er niks aan doen. Want ik heb wel, ik stem altijd. Vooral als er gestemd moet worden voor de regering of iets van die aard, daar ben ik erbij. Dan doe ik dat. Maar toch wordt het moeilijker, vind ik. Dus ik weet er eigenlijk te weinig van. Ik zou wel eens wat meer uit de doeken gedaan willen hebben door...
Yeah, so if I can translate, he said that the European Parliament, there's a lot of things happening and some things he likes, some things he doesn't like, but most of the times he has the feeling he cannot really do something about these things. For example, if he doesn't like it.
Exactly what he means.
Yeah, and that he would like to know more about what's actually going on in Brussels and in the EU. Is that a good recap?
So, more transparency?
I used to be a fisherman. Als dat was your question?
Ja, heb ik het goed samengevat?
Ja.
En haar vraag was, bedoel je meer transparantie?
Ja, transparantie. Meer voor transparantie, dat is a good thing, because then maybe I hear something that I can understand.
Ja, dat het meer bereikbaar wordt ook op die manier.
But the language they talk, but that's not only in Europe. That's here in the on the island as well. They speak in a special language, and that is not what I understand.
Ja, dankjewel.
Oké, thanks.
What the European Parliament should do is represent us and check out on the European Committee and all the so-called ministers and but I think they should speak out better so that what the gentleman said, they are more visible to us all, because they're doing a good job basically. But it's always the case between politics and the civilians. It's not always clear what they are doing, that they are representing us. And it could also be that they're not doing what we want because the other party is being heard. But I'm a politician myself, and I try to listen to the people that I hope vote for me and all the people. But it's always hard to get the connection between the voters and the representatives, and to make really clear what you choose and why you choose to do something, on what reason. And I see it locally. It's hard enough to explain yourself to the voters, but still you got to do some trouble and get your message clear. And that's what the European Parliament should do, because there are a lot of people in Holland, also in our national parliament, who always speak bad from the European Union and say, well, Europe is costing us so much every year. But they don't tell the whole story. They never tell you what you get back from it. And sometimes with the fishermen, they should have been more clear what they wanted, what they could do. And I think a lot of trouble could have been avoided. Trouble that is now playing up for the fishermen, for the French fishermen, for the European Union. It would have been better if they would have been more on the job. This is it.
Yeah, you can give it.
For me, the European Parliament is It's a noble idea, and it really aligns itself with the notion that we are unified in diversity in the European Union. We have all of these different politicians from different member states, from different regions, from different political parties, united in the parliament and basically debating ideas about Europe and making legislation. I thought it's a noble thing, but for me, the European Parliament is simply. It doesn't have enough power. It is still relying on the Commission too much. It's the one initiating policy making. It is the one who decides what's going to be discussed in the European Parliament. And then the Council also has to vote on it. And it kind of strips a lot of power away from the European Parliament. So the notion that it's a representative democracy, for me, is not really valid. And I think the main question here is if the European Parliament was intended in the first place. Because some people argue that the European Union is nothing more than just a state that makes regulation. And and that's what it was founded on. So in order to make our parliament more representative and more powerful, maybe we should strip those agencies and strip the council and the commission from its powers so the parliament can truly represent us. I'm not really sure if that's a good idea, but like I said, for me it's a noble idea, but it's an idea, it's not the reality.
Martin?
Ja.
Oh, sorry. I think that the things they make decisions over, that they better can do that in a smaller way. Because if you know now, you see those the fishermen, they used to fish and they may not with electric power. That's the best thing you can do. You use no oil too much anymore. And now go on. You can always find good things about it. And they are we have here the NEOS. It's here on the island, and they have looked at it, and that's the best thing you can do. You do not disturb the bottom of the sea, and the way they use the fishery, they had heavy chains on the gear, and that they pull that across the bottom, and that makes a lot of damage sometimes. But with electric fishing, there's no damage anymore. And what means the oil they use? It's for those big cutters we have here on the island. They use sometimes 3,000 liters of oil in a week. But since they used electric fishing, they used no more than the half of it. And that is a thing that is plus.
Maybe we can discuss this later, like in the solution section. Now we go
but what I try to say is they voted in Brussels for it, that it must mean it was no good, or it is not it. What it is, they do not what they say, because it's something special what it is. And
so when did you move?
The man from the island here, from the NEOS, they came on board, and they used to go with the ship for a week or more, and then film and take samples and things like that. But
I would say we go like a bit deeper into this critical analysis after we heard like all the voices, so then we can discuss this.
Okay, yes.
But the gentleman has a very fair point, namely that we need more fishermen to stand for election as members of European Parliament. We need more people who are experts or specialists who are in the committees voting on decisions that affect citizens. And to answer your question, the European Parliament is our directly elected representative body, and it may sit in Brussels or in Strasbourg, but it's an assembly of our representatives. And that's a very key point. There are some who say that the European Parliament is not necessarily a very diverse or representative institution. Well, again, it falls upon us as citizens to make it more diverse. I come from Hungary, and in the last European parliamentary elections in 2014, we had only 28.97% of Hungarian citizens going to vote, who are eligible to vote, in the European parliamentary elections. So only approximately 29% of Hungarians, like myself, who went to vote, are represented there. Now, when it comes to the European Parliament, I think one key issue that we have to discuss is that in Hungary, when we vote, we consider European parliamentary elections as a second national election for a very simple reason. In Hungary, you vote in a national constituency. So I'm from a village called Veszprém. It's part of Veszprém County. It's not where my MEP comes from. I don't have an MEP representing Veszprém County. I have an MEP representing Hungary as a country. So when I vote, I have lists that I can choose from instead of one MEP who I know, who I can go to, who comes to my village of Taliandörögt, who comes to my county, who understands how we are, somebody who represents perhaps Texel, who's a fisherman, who understands how things are. Instead of that, I have somebody somewhere in the country representing me. So if we can change one thing, is to have proper constituencies where I, in my village, in Veszprém County, I vote for an MEP who represents the interests of Veszprém County, our interests, because Veszprémians are not represented, unfortunately, sufficiently.
Okay, I see that a few people want to react. I would suggest to first finish the round, that everyone can say something and then react to what people have said. I'm really curious what everyone's. So, sir, welcome in the Dome. To everyone who's new, welcome in the Dome. Very important, we film everything. So if you don't want to be on the camera, let us know. Then we make sure you're not being filmed. And second of all, it's very important to talk into the microphone. We were just making a first round talking about what is the EU Parliament and what do we think the EU Parliament should do. So, sir, if you want to start.
My name is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. My name is Dian Zhang. I come from France. My origin is from China. So I just want to get the idea how to vote. Before I come to Europe, I never vote. In that country is about dictatorship. So I get the idea what democracy and how people vote, and I look about the program of Europe. I have lots of opinion. For example, about the climate change and how you make the future of the 2030 vision, 2050 vision, how the Europe will becoming. What's the future of the Europe? They have lots of refugee crisis, and they have political crisis, and you have diplomacy with Russia, with China, and lots of countries, and how the Europe develop the digital economy. The Europe created the digital single market. So my point is about the digital transformation impact on the Europe politics. Because in the area of digital transformation, everything will get changed, as well as the green, the environment how you improve the environment, and how you change the institution, of how do you reform the institution, and about the healthcare, about the education. Too much topic, and every sphere is impacted by the digital transformation, and you reform about improve the industry, agriculture, and the service by the like the technology of artificial intelligence. You have the cloud computing and the big data technology and the robots. Artificial intelligence is very deeply impacted on the life of European Union. Every people's life is impacted by this industrial revolution, like the pushed by the Germany, the industrial 4.0. So the society, technology, science, education, everything will change. Everything's on the topic.
Maybe we can go deeper into the technological possibilities in the second round, because now we first look into what the parliament's power, or what the parliament's part is in this whole process. So maybe we continue first, and then we go deeper into the technological dimension of as a solution for a future or expected parliament.
I do talk about the politics, how to work, not about technology. I mean the impact. Impact means like the GovTech or the CivTech. The parliament also go in the digitalization. So you have lots of regulation. And you make even your voting, it impact how you people go the website, and how you go the platform. They have Google. They are just read the Google, so they have the guide for people how to voting.
This goes already to the solution section. So we continue with the three new.
Yeah, so I give you the.
So we talk about the role of the parliament.
Yeah, exactly. What is for you the role of the parliament? What should be duty towards the citizen?
Okay, so I'm from Belgium. So I think for us, not a lot of people are not aware of what the parliament means, the European Parliament, because we have already the 3 regions in Belgium with their own parliament, and then you have the federal parliament. It's already rather complicated. So I think we should talk more about this, occasions like this. It's very nice to talk about what Europe could do for us, because I think it's very important to unite all the countries and tackle problems together, and keep doing that even in difficult times where you see the reaction to everyone do his own thing. And I think it's very important to keep doing that in an efficient way and to talk about this between Europeans.
Thank you. Do you want to add something? No. Okay. So before you said something, do you want to recap? Because I saw that you wanted to react to it.
Maybe how he said it's for the second round.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes, we finished the first round, so we can go into the second round. Yeah.
So if you want to react to one of his positions or the other way around?
Yeah, actually, I would like to react, but maybe not personally what you were saying. But I think that you made a really fair point about 2 things. Firstly, we have a problem that the European Union, the Parliament, they are working on really important topics, but very often they do not communicate in a human language that everybody would understand. For example, when I try to read those documents, my head hurts. So yeah, yes. The second point, I think it was mentioned by the colleague from Hungary. So we have some problems with representativity. Maybe it's not that important that some personalities would be elected, but I just want to to stress that very often there are different kind of mechanism which is open for society to use. For example, if those problems are important, so European Commission they have open discussions where organizations, civil society can have their inputs, their researches on some kind of topics. The other thing we always can remember that lobbying is often working, especially when you are a part of a bigger group. For example, I don't know, some kind of political party, some kind of environmental group and so on. So, maybe I agree totally that representativity is still a problem in the European Union, but we have to remember there are a lot of mechanisms which we can use, and I have noticed that many people, even from active civil society, they are still not using these opportunities. So just to stress.
But okay, then I have a question for the round, because you were talking about mechanisms that we could use as a civil society, but in a sense it is also for people who live on islands or in rural areas. How do they get access to those instruments? Because is it not the responsibility of the institutions to diffuse these information more simple and not so complex? Because that's also a criticism that those tools, they are available, but somehow nobody knows about them. For instance, there's this European petition system or the European Citizens Initiative. They are there, they are already tools that we can use, but somehow just a few people know about them. So does anyone know how we could come up with solutions to diffuse those tools better?
Ja,
Oké.
dat gaat wel. Ik zal het terug later wel vertellen als we rondlopen.
Ik mis een beetje, maar dat
Ja, zal ik het kort vertellen? Oké, prima.
praten we wel erover als we rondlopen. Zo gaan het? Of waar je nog even zitten?
nog even.
So I would say one way to go about this, and I agree, there are a lot of opportunities out there. A colleague mentioned European Parliament's petition system, European Citizens Initiative system, European Commission has online public consultations, European Central Bank has public consultations. However, one key point, the gentleman is from Holland, I'm from Hungary, and the European Parliament's Facebook page is not in Hungarian or in Dutch, it's in English. So we need to respect the fact that all 24 EU official languages have to be utilized for communication, and I feel that we do too much in German, in French, and in English. And these programs should be translated into our languages, because we're citizens, we pay taxes, these institutions represent us, so we want to follow up on what they're doing. So one key problem is that if you go to European parliamentary committees, unfortunately, if there is not an MEP who is speaking a particular language, let's say Estonian, then it is not necessarily true that the committee proceedings will be translated to Estonian. So if I'm an Estonian citizen, and if I go on the European Parliament's website, and I want to look at the Committee on Constitutional Affairs, and I want to watch a briefing and see what did they discuss, and I listen, and I look at the languages I can choose, Estonian is not going to be there if there's no Estonian MEP. So as an Estonian, I don't know what's going on there. I have to wait for the European Parliament to publish something in Estonian, or for an Estonian news outlet to take an interest in it in the media and report on it. So I think that we need to invest more money in ensuring that every single citizen is able to listen or read in their language what is going on. Because that's the best way you can make sure that it's transparent, to look at it in your own language.
Maybe you should then maybe you should then talk about things the have sense for the people who live there. You're from Hungarian. Well, you have no coast around. There is no fishery, so but you have to vote. You are able to vote to make a vote in the question. Terwijl you know nothing about it.
Well,
but because if you know about it, that means that you have learned a few years about it. But No one have it. No one have it.
So as you might know, we have the largest freshwater lake in Central Europe, Lake Balaton, and we also have the River Danube and the River Tisa. So we do have fishing,
Yes,
and we do have fishermen that need to be
Yes,
represented.
yes.
But you're completely right that we don't have an open sea such as you. However, if you look at our MEPs and you look at their professions, unfortunately, you're not going to find any fishermen among them, I can tell you. So, indeed, if one of them goes to a committee and is voting on an issue concerning fishing rights, I sincerely hope that they're communicating back home with their constituents, with the representative organizations. But as the colleague mentioned, if you're in Hungary and you're a fishermen's rights organization, then you're able to connect with your MEP. But again, you need to be able to follow what's going on, and it has to happen in Hungarian. So I would say that every single document, every single proceeding, everything needs to be translated to Dutch, to German, to Dutch, to Hungarian, to Lithuanian. It has to be in our languages. Otherwise, we might not know what's going on in our institutions.
Yeah, I mean, that's one point where you can, translation may help. But the question is, so let's take the UK as an example, right? Everything is available in English. Still, people don't know what's going on in the European Union. If you put it on the European Parliament's website, on European websites, on their Facebook pages, Twitter pages, some people will in the internet somewhere, the information will not automatically get to the persons, to the citizenry. So the question is, how do you get the information to the people? And one thing could be that we in Europe, we must invest more into EU studies in schools, for instance. Nobody learns about how the EU system works. What kind of tools are available to me to make my voice heard in Europe? Why not? Why not have a EU class in high school or in city halls, for instance, organize them and tell people this is the way how you can influence policy making. Here's the European Citizens Initiative. It's very simple to register one. Just people don't know about it, but by just simply publishing information online, that won't solve it. We have to actively engage with our citizenry. And the first step would be probably education that can take place in schools, but also in other spaces.
Then you probably need the willingness of the national governments, and this is a problem because it's still like a national competence education, but it would be a first step definitely. So you had also a point to make?
I will try to summarize really easily to understand. Basically, I think that maybe we as Europeans are often demand too much things which could be solved by easier ways. For example, communication. The European Union has member states. They have their own parliaments, and they work in the field of those decisions, directives which are taken by the European institutions. I think that one of solutions could be that parliaments and national institutions would be more active to address those issues which are the most important to their citizens. Then you have like better understanding what's important to them, and and how to communicate them to people that they would understand. I don't know, maybe if agriculture or fishery is really important for your country, so maybe national politicians, like, they could be not so lazy and show more initiative just to deal with these things and work to make the communication better, maybe. I think that you were really right that better education about these things is needed. If we embrace the European Union, if we understand that we kind of shape our national policies regarding those decisions which are taken in the European institutions, so it's a crime not to pay more attention to these things, especially when everybody are talking that we need to have stronger civil society and more democracy and so on. So we should give better means to our citizens to be able to use that. So.
I'm getting cold.
You guys have to go?
Yeah.
Would you like to say one last thing? It's like a closing thing?
Dank u
Zou
wel.
je één laatste opmerking willen maken?
No, not anymore.
Nou, dank jullie wel. Heel erg bedankt.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Opportunity.
The opportunity that I got.
Dank je wel.
Yeah, it's good. When I get coming, I don't know what's your focus for this discussion. Yeah, I just don't know what's the focus for the discussion. You know, the topic about Europe is too much topic. For example, Madame, you talking about the language. So the different country, how to build the scenario of the communication. So you.
Lower.
A bit
Lower.
Yeah, so further away.
the microphone, like
This way.
perfect, great.
Oh. So I just think about does any organization specialized for the communication between different countries, different language, and for example, like the company Google, and they have Google Translate, so you can translate between different language, and you can have some young people from the university, they specialize in the translation. You just organize the team, you get a special movement, so you can make communication with the 28 country. Every information you share in the pool, share in the website. So that's a solution very specific, I think. If you're talking about something, you can go into very specific, not only everything about the European Parliament, because the Parliament is too much topic about all the constitution, all the regulation, everything. So you get very specific topic, so you get a solution.
I think that's an excellent idea, and there is one initiative going on currently. It was a successful European Citizens Initiative. It was called Minority Safe Pack, and they are calling for a decentralized EU agency called the Center for Language Diversity, and the aim behind it would be to provide funding in order to make sure that you can ensure linguistic diversity. So as you say, provide more funding to universities to train translators, to develop, as you said, programs. You mentioned Google Translate, which are able to simultaneously, quickly, easily translate. And going beyond that, we have to remember that we're in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has a very rich history of linguistic diversity. So just a bit to the north of us, there are the Frisians, and that's a minority community with a language that is spoken by people who unfortunately didn't learn it in school, and we need to make sure that languages such as Frisian survive into the 22nd century. Languages such as Welsh in the UK or Scottish in the UK, which, well, we'll see if they stay in, but if they do, then we need to make sure that those languages survive. So I agree, I think we should have an EU institution that's responsible.
By crowdfunding. It can operate by crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding?
Yeah, crowdfunding is very popular. Yeah. So in Holland, they also have crowdfunding.
Just a short remark you mentioned before about how to spread information. So basically, I think it's in every country like that may have some like press centers of European institutions. So I can say that in my country it's working quite well. You just sign up of a newsletter and you get those topics which are interesting, like press releases in your language with attached attached documents which are all very often translated to your language if you need it. So I don't know, I think in all countries are like that, like European Commission, European Parliament, they have those press centers. So if you look for it, you will find it sooner or later.
Okay, so like the coming elections is going to be like a destiny election for the European Parliament, because probably there's going to be like a huge division in like all, like in the spectrum of the parties that are represented. So like coming back to the topic, what do you how could this divided parliament work for the people? Is there like a chance that we overcome this division, and do you have expectations for this highly dangerous field of action, or like do you have any other ideas how we could resolve this problem? Maybe someone, because like there's gonna be like probably a turn to the right and probably also like some populists on the left, but is there a chance how we can overcome it? Like maybe first here.
And then you once again before we start around not
Not close, okay. Not across them.
not too close, just this is perfect.
Okay. I think that when we are facing these challenges, that the new parliament can be more radical than it was. So civil society is more important than it was. So I think that we should be very keen on lobbying, pressuring, and giving our analyzed suggestions, and to try to shape the process. There are like documents, and like they have to pay attention more or less to the European citizens. So I think that civil society has to be more diligent. Awareness is really important.
Yeah, I think that labeling this election as, like the destiny of the European Union rests on it, it's kind of like too much. I mean, it's not the end of the world that we will see a rise in, maybe right-wing parties. Of course, we will see a rise, but history tells us that these parties are not able to cooperate effectively with each other to block the European projects. And far-right parties' biggest concern or biggest goal is to, do good for their own nation. And because of that, they don't really have a common ground.
Well, they do it better than the left at the moment. They're like more unified on the right, and they probably, they might not be that as constructive as liberals or like left-wing politicians, but we clearly see like a shift towards more destructive politics. And
I mean, it's more destructive for sure, but I think there's also the aspect of what do you communicate and what do you actually do. So in the sense of we would see the Hungarian government right now as kind of like a disruptive power in the European Union. But has it, blocked major things? Of course, we had the EU summit with the Arab nations, and they blocked something, right? They blocked a proposal because it contains the word migrant, right? But besides that, what has Hungary done to disrupt the EU policymaking?
It's more like a sentiment that is spread all over Europe. You see populist movements and also like those right-wing affiliated like politicians, and they spread it to the people. You see like in the different countries. So it's not only like on the like bureaucratic level and in the institutions, but also outside of them. You see like really disruptive things going on. So
I mean, is it destiny? No.
I just frame it.
To be like not paying attention, not saying. Just not record.
It's more like crossroads, destiny is maybe a bit exaggerated, but you need to frame it like this because we need to be conscious, and also cautious, because otherwise, like things can get out of control. So that's what I'm just referring to.
Just in sentences, better safe than sorry. So
I definitely agree. I think we need to take it very seriously. These elections are coming at a very critical time, and of course we can say that every election comes at a critical time, but I think one thing that all of us, each and every single one of us, can do and take away, which is very important, is to stop deciding who the good Europeans and the bad Europeans are. To say that we're all in this together, this is our European Union, and when somebody is elected as a member of European Parliament, we might disagree with them on a principled basis, on the basis of our interests, but we have to respect the fact that citizens voted for that individual, and no matter how annoying they might be, or how arrogant or ignorant, they were sent there by citizens. They act as their voice, and instead of saying pro-Europeans, anti-Europeans, pro-EU, anti-EU, we have to realize that if somebody stands for election as a member of European Parliament, probably they have some type of vision for the future of the European Union. It might be to end the European Union, but then they represent citizens who believe that, and that's a view that our fellow citizens have, and in a democracy we must respect the fact that other people might not be of the view of us, and we have to debate with them and discuss with them, but most importantly try to find common ground with them, because at the end of the day there must be some common ground. There must be something in which our interests are the same, our values are the same, and on that point we must unite. And that might be in one particular vote working together with somebody who's on the left or on the right. And of course, if someone's a communist, let's call them a communist. But we have to accept the fact that there are numerous visions for the future of Europe. We might personally prefer one or another, but just because somebody has a different vision, we shouldn't say that that's not a respectable vision. We should debate on the content of it and say that our vision is better than your vision. But denying their Europeanness, I think that's something that nobody can take away from them. Rather say, you have a different vision than me. I respect your opinion, we respectfully disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And for instance, it might seem from the outside that Hungarians dislike the EU, but they don't. They want to be part of it, and they just want to form it in a different way. And yeah, that's totally okay, and we shouldn't fight that. And going back to disruptiveness, right? So, if at some point, maybe in the future, the UK leaves the European Union, then actually we will lose one of the biggest disruptors in the European Union.
So you basically say that there should be some antagonisms in order to stay in the European Union. You need always like some common, I don't know, like contradiction or something. Yeah, I also like, of course, otherwise you wouldn't have like a process and like a continuous, I don't know, like politics lives from it, no? Like from heated debates and from different opinions.
Yeah, because if it would be all about what is effective, then our Eurozone wouldn't be designed like it is designed. Because in the end, what was it? Political discussions.
Yeah.
And at the end, it was a compromise.
But do you think we need more Europe, less Europe, or like?
I mean,
even
I'm for federal Europe, right on, but I see that that's probably, that doesn't really resonate well with many people. But yeah, that's up to the citizenry to decide. But we should have multiple options to choose from, and have a debate about it, and then, during the years and years, somewhere we end up, and then we evolve again. And yeah.
Like, okay, maybe we wrap it up.
Yeah, I
come to an end. Sadly.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, we could go on.
But we can do this anytime.
Maybe you have like some last.
What I would like to ask actually is, what do you guys go vote for? What is something you want to see from the parliament, in the parliament, with the parliament, so to say? What do you guys go vote for in May?
But like in the elections, or
for example, yeah.
Morta hasn't said anything. She must say something.
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, like, I'm a dual citizen, so I have to first choose the country where I want to vote in. So I'm choosing Hungary over Germany because I feel that my vote is, brings more value to the country there. So the only thing that drives me, the only thing that I'm looking at the political party is it stands toward the European Union, what it wants, what is its vision for the European Union. That's the only thing.
But what contains, like, what is the core of this vision? Like, do you have any expectations? Because we look at the future parliament, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to see? What should they work on? Is there, like, do you think that transnationalism is a thing that they should work on, or more cooperation in a political sense? Like,
yeah. So the party I'm voting for, their campaign is based on so their vision is federal Europe, delegating more power to the European institutions, and that's what I want to see. That's it. Take away power from national governments and give it to the European Union. But of course, for that, I also want to see more democracy in the European Union, more transparency inside of the European Union. I don't want to have cases like Selmayr.
Okay. Thank you. Do you know what you want to say?
I'm too old to think.
I come from a small village in Western Hungary, and one very serious problem is that if we do not act and engage in climate action, then our wine cellars are not going to be producing any more that wine that I've been growing up on, harvesting it, taking part every time there's harvest season, singing those beautiful Hungarian folk songs, going out afterwards, pushing the grapes down. We would lose our way of life. So one key reason to answer the question why I'm voting is to have more representatives who are serious about climate action to make sure that this beautiful weather we enjoy is something that our grandchildren can enjoy as well. Because if our representatives don't act now, I don't think we'll be able to have this way of life as we are Europeans today.
thank you.
Say something about the Russians.
No, I don't really know. For me, it's I would say kind of a personal reason, because to be honest, I've never ever voted in my life, not in national elections or European elections. So, on a personal note, it's very much a first for me. But I don't know. I'm very interested in sort of environment protection. So yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's something that more time should be spent on, and hopefully things can change in the after the elections. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know, I'm more interested to be honest, not about the elections itself, but what happens after the elections, because I think that's what's important.
What would you want to see after the elections?
I don't even know. So yeah. I mean, it's very easy to say, like, I expect good things, but I don't know. I'm so cold that
My brain is frozen.
yeah, like the back of my head is completely frozen. No, I've acclimated to UK, to the UK's weather. It's not the cold, it's the wind.
You want to vote change the weather.
Yeah.
Climate change is
Less
Weather
wind.
warfare.
But no, it's actually in the Netherlands, like, global warming means more wind. Yeah.
That's good actually, because then you can like invest into more renewable energies, and I mean this could be like a good policy actually. Like we need a common policy framework for green investments, for instance. I think that's what we should strive for. There's, for instance, like an initiative called the Green New Deal by DiEM25 and European Spring. Sorry for propaganda, but I guess that we need this transnational action in order to tackle those really complicated topics such as climate catastrophe and such. So I think we need to go from a standpoint of transnationalism, and that's what I would vote for a party that represents us all on a European scale.
Transnationalism on the European scale or transnationalism on the world scale?
You need to start from a European standpoint, because like the global standpoint is even more anarchical, so there needs to be first a common sense on transnationalism on the in the European dimension, and then we can go further, or like we do it hand in hand, but I think it's even more complicated because we don't succeed here. Or do you have any other?
Guys, I want to thank you very much for the discussion. Thanks a lot for joining. I really liked it, and we will put the stuff online, and you can find it on the YouTube channel of.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining.
Cheers.